Hey, what's going on? I know you guys have all missed us over here. We got Poor Source, we got Crimson. This is the PUBCast, episode number 1, season 2. You can check out our Twitter down below. Yeah, we're making moves out here, making moves. Season number 2, time is just flying on by. So let's introduce you, just in case this is your first time tuning on in. We're going to start all the way over on the opposite end here. Crimson from the EU, our EU resident. Crimson, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, very good, Dave. Very good. Ready to talk some PUBG, as always.
Very good, very good, very good. All right. And then in the middle, the sandwich, the peanut butter jelly over here. Me and Crimson are the bread. Poor Source.
Nice. Peanut butter and the jelly.
Yeah, both of them. How you doing, Crimson? I mean, Poro. How you doing, Poro?
Man, I'm doing great. We got a lot of exciting PUBG that's just happened, and a lot more exciting stuff on the way in the next couple of weeks, and we got to hit on all of it, Mr. Mustache Dave.
Yeah, we're gonna hit on it. Yeah, look at the title if you are watching. LANS on LANS. All right, so I mean, let's get into it. PUBG, LANS. That's our middle name here today. So we are going to begin the conversation regarding the past LAN that just happened. That actually, both of you gentlemen were there. So I'm just going to leave an open floor that you guys pick and choose who wants to go first with this one. But your thoughts on Dreamhack.
I'll defer to Crimson to start off since
okay, yeah.
Since it's yet another
EU win. Let's
EU
go. Yeah, all right. Well, those things aside, let's just talking about the LAN a little bit. I mean, I feel like it was probably I mean, I said this before, maybe pivotal LAN in the PUBG scene, right? Because it's been a while since we've had any LANs with an audience. Since, if I'm right, I think it's not since IEM that we've had like an audience. And those events, IEM, there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, it's kind of spread out. It's not as easy for kind of passers-by to come and jump in and watch the PUBG events that are happening. So I don't feel like the audience participation in those previous events was there really. But that was the main thing that kind of struck me when we were there at Dreamhack, right? Massive stage. Everybody's seen the pictures of the stage probably by now. Really good setup, really nice stage. And it was absolutely packed, right? There was loads of people there. You saw a lot of people who were clearly there for the PUBG, but I think at the same time you saw a lot of people who were just at the event who were kind of walking past and thinking, what is this? This looks awesome, you know, getting involved, you know, ended up standing room only pretty much. And that was just, you know, that was heartwarming, let's put it that way, to see that, because, you know, there's a lot of naysayers on the scene. Obviously, everybody's heard a lot of naysaying and all that sort of thing about PUBG. And I think that for me was just like beautiful to see, you know, that people actually getting involved, interested in it. And it's not just the, you know, the same guys online every time that are watching it. It's people, you know, who just actually found it really entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of add on to that, you know, if I hadn't have actually been there and gotten the context of which that crowd was surrounding the stage, it would have made it a little bit different too. Because, you know, it wasn't like there was nothing else going on at the convention while PUBG was going on. I mean, there was CSGO going on with, you know, I mean, I know it was a minor, but there were still some, you know, teams that get kind of a good draw. There was StarCraft, which was right next door, that had some really big names like Scarlet and, you know, people that have been winning recently. So there was a lot of other things that people could have been doing other than going to PUBG and watching PUBG, and yet they were still there. And like Crimson said, all the seats in the front were filled. There's standing room only in the backside. And, you know, it stayed like that even on the first day, which was, you know, a train wreck. It had to start super late because of all the different kind of things that kept popping up. I mean, it stayed full up until probably about 10 o'clock. And even after 10, you know, it went super late. But even after that, there was still a pretty good amount of people that were there to kind of stay it out and see what happened. So, yeah, I mean, I got to say, like, I think it was huge to see that kind of turnout. Especially in North America, and especially in a place like Austin. So, you know, it kind of makes you wonder why they didn't even consider doing a live PGI LAN in North America. But
we'll get there. We'll get there. So you guys were both there. I wasn't there. I had to watch it on the official stream. And I actually caught a couple IRL streamers like Soda Pop and Greek God kind of in the crowd. You know, I saw them on the first day bothering Shroud and Dr. Disrespect. Is there anything, I mean, I know it's not really competitive, but those show matches the first day, would you say those kind of drew a bigger crowd, or was it just all together throughout the event the same amount of people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a little bit of a worry for us as the competitive scene, right? Because we turned up, we saw all these people. Obviously, people are talking about Shroud, Dr. Disrespect, and the show match and all that sort of thing. But it was actually really fun to watch. You know, there was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't competitive really in any way. I think pretty much everybody knew that. But you know, we did think that originally. We thought, oh man, is everybody just going to disappear as soon as the competitive starts? And they didn't, and that was, you know, and that was awesome. So, you know, I don't know really if it was the same crowd or whether it was, you know, whether it was Shroud and Doc bringing a few extra people into the competitive side of it. That would be great if it was, or whether it was just those people came to see Shroud and Doc and then off they went and everybody else turned up for the actual competitive element. Who knows? But either way, I thought it was a good thing to get them involved with it, and it definitely, you know, big names bring people in, and you know, why not? So yeah, I liked it.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, those guys combined daily bring somewhere around 80,000 people watching PUBG.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not one of these people that's gonna get like triggered beyond measure whenever Shroud says something about like
The competitive community.
the competitive scene in PUBG. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. Who cares? Like, who cares? Like, people are still showing up for this. You know, he's still bringing viewers to the game. I'll tell you what, if Shroud and Doc decided to switch over to Fortnite, or you know, they become full-time Realm Royale streamers, it's going to be a lot bigger of a problem for PUBG than it would be if they, you know, just stay around and say, oh, competitive's not that big of a deal. Well, and I think after the event and having to, you know, getting to play on the stage and seeing kind of the production that's going in, the money that's going into making a good competitive production, at least at DreamHack, you know, maybe his mind got changed a little bit, and maybe not completely, because, you know, at this point, you know, he's pretty much talked himself into a corner as far as like saying that it's not really there. But you know, and maybe in his heart of hearts now he knows that there's a little bit more of a presence there than maybe he thought there was.
What a great way to start out season 2. Hopefully, we get some views over here. Poro calling out Shroud. Shroud confirmed to be in the building.
Calling out Shroud.
Shroud was in the building watching the LAN event, the competitive LAN event. So hopefully he understands it. So let's get you call him out. You come out. Let's move on to the actual event and the teams. It was EU, NA. Just a little brief breakdown. Day 1. Looking pretty good. Envy was in first place, Optic in second place, Liquid in third, and then FaZe in fourth place. And then coming on into the next day, because it was a 2-day event, we ended up with FaZe in first place, Pittsburgh Knights in second place, Optic in third, and Tempo Storm in fourth place. So Poro, I'm gonna point this one towards you first, and then we'll get Crimson. But NA event, EU taking the first place. How does it feel?
Hey man, it must be really nice to be able to have all like a whole half of the map, basically from Milta to Milta Power to Prison all the way up to Yasnaya, where nobody fights each other. Nobody gets involved with each other. Everybody gives themselves their nice little safe space bubble that they're allowed to play in for the first 2 circles, and not have to worry about anybody from your region coming to mess with you. Well, in NA we don't do that. We fight all the time. And I think it's interesting, and I'm, you know, obviously
shots at FaZe now. Okay.
I'm kind of BSing a little bit here, but at the same time, it's like when if you take a step back and you look at it, like that has to have some kind of impact. Maybe not, you know, nothing, you know, discernible that you can really, like, nothing tangible that you can point at and see, but you know, that's an entire side of the map that is very comfortable playing around each other. They're used to playing around each other. They're not, I mean, you throw in Vitality in there as well. I mean, that's literally, the EU took up the entire southeastern side of the map. And, you know, and meanwhile, you know, NA is just doing NA things, which is just scrapping and fighting and getting involved early. The only one that really kind of was not involved in all that was Kingwin, which Kingwin going to Georgia Pool, they had a little bit of a rougher time, and proved themselves once again to be really good team, making it a little bit farther than having to get involved in all those early fights and everything. But that being said, at the end of the day, like I am disappointed. I am disappointed. This was the best shot that we were going to have as a region to kind of there was 10 NA teams, 10, and then you throw in Team Secret and then the five EU teams. This was our best shot. And I gotta say, Envy really stepped up day one. They really did well. Dignitas really stepped up really well. But some of the other teams, Optic stepped up really well. But some of the other teams is just kind of this was our first chance seeing Wildcard on LAN, and I was kind of disappointed. I thought that this was a team that was kind of been dominating the whole, not dominating, but that performing at a really high level in North America all the way up until this event, and they just kind of I don't know if it was land jitters or just whatever, but it just kind of fizzled out a little bit. Weren't playing as well as they normally do. Tempo Storm did their best to try to save all, but it's just this whole storyline of EU greater than NA and all this nonsense. It's getting old. It's getting old, but we're not doing anything to really counter that.
Yeah.
We've had how many lands now? We've won one. So, and that was Ghost coming in with the PGL victory right after picking up Balak and Turtle. But I see every time we do this, I see glimpses of what we could be, how good we could be. But it's just, for whatever reason, the consistency when we get to LAN and the adjustments, the day-to-day adjustments aren't there. And the EU phase in particular is just really, really good at it.
Yeah,
I went on forever. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I mean, I started jumping in to support the NA stuff, right? I mean, everybody said, especially after the first day, that those were some of the best games that we've seen. They were because of that aggression, because people wanted to fight for the places that they wanted. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of aggression, some really exciting games, and certainly at the end of the day one, I think everybody was, there was easily as good a chance as Optic or Envy winning the whole thing as there was any other team. So I don't think the scoreboard maybe reflects that. The final scoreboard maybe doesn't reflect that as much as it ended up. But
the final scoreboard is the scoreboard that counts, Crimson.
Yeah, but of course that's the point, and we saw the adaptations from FaZe coming in, and Knights. You got to say, I mean, everybody's talking about FaZe, but Knights. Knights really performed really well. Push themselves right up there.
In their first LAN.
Yeah, and they're their first LAN with this kind of proper roster, I guess you can say.
What other LAN have they been a part of?
They were at the GLL, but they only had 3 players because of issues, and but yeah, I mean, so they did really well as well, and I kind of like it in a way because it just points out the consistency element, right? And I think the adaptation, I keep saying that word, FaZe they looked at the VODs overnight, probably Knights as well. Well, I'm sure all the teams did, but FaZe did what they do and looked at the VODs and said, right, this is how we play this. This is our game to change up what we did. And you can see it in the way that they played the game. They normally do these long, wide rotations. They're normally a bit slower playing into the circles. And they kind of changed that around for the second day. They took a few more fights. They pushed into the center. They were up for fighting the American teams, basically. And they ended up winning it as a result, and, winning it by a pretty big margin.
660 points from second place.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that just shows that there is this next level of PUBG above the being able to win a game. You have to be able to look at the whole series, each individual set of teams that you're going to be playing against, and say, right, this is the weaknesses of this particular lobby, or the strengths, or this is what I should be doing in this lobby. And I think that's just I just really liked it. It was another element of PUBG that you then have to think about and think, this game is layers on layers on layers of, tactics as well as fighting, as well as, I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, it was great. 660 points away from second place. And then second to third was 91. And then third to fourth was a 12-point gap. So that's just to put it into perspective. And not only that, after day number one, FaZe, like we mentioned, came in fourth place. So they they shot up. They shot up that next day, Crimson. They came in watching those VODs overnight. So besides the actual teams itself, we kind of made mention of the production. The stage was pretty awesome. Only standing room for the most part. I mean, there were a couple rows of chairs. And
there was a ton of seating. It was just they all filled up.
All filled up. And the production, I liked that they had little. I know you guys were there, so you couldn't. It was probably on the screen actually. That people could use the Twitch and do #phase, and then they had like a little crowd favorite bar. They did that every game.
Voting.
Just meme as hard as they can for one team.
I think that was pretty good. I think that was pretty cool. To
nice
gauge the crowd.
Yeah,
I saw Space Station Gaming was kind of a crowd favorite for at least day number 1. What other kind of production?
So was
Ruski.
So.
Oh, okay.
Well, you got a meme.
What other kind of production improvements that we had at DreamHack that we would want to see moving forward into the other LANs? I know it's a pretty tough question, but
I think it's more like what we don't want to see, which is technical difficulties, right? I mean, DreamHack clearly know what they're doing. They're running a huge LAN, the amount of PCs there, the amount of power and all that. And even despite all that experience, despite all these, technicians and engineers and everything they have on site, there were still problems with running a PUBG tournament. And the problems might have been un-PUBG related in some cases or whatever the details were. But I think it's just, it should be a little bit of a wake up and say, you do have to put in a little bit more time into trying, you have to get all these players in, all working, all running. Everybody has to be in at the same time. And if you don't do that, you start to, lose your competitive integrity. You start to lose time, which we saw in the BYOC going on and on and on. So I think that's a bit of a wake up call a bit.
Yeah, I'll say that the BYOC thing definitely needs to be kind of revisited and figured out how to make that work a little bit better. Because
what was the issue though? What was the issue for people that weren't there?
Oh, I mean, they for a while there was like internet issues, and then they had apparently they blew out an entire electric thing. Like they lost a bunch of electricity. Then they had then there was some issues with the stage where it was to fire code or something. I don't know. There was, how things go.
We heard a few
just
things.
Rumors just abound. But and like how I don't know how much of that stuff is actually true. But the fact was that the BYOC people were playing until like 2 a.m. On one night. Only got like 1 game in or 2 games in that counted, and then they had to play the entire day the next day. Once that was all settled, they immediately went over and started playing into the first round of the first day. So like that was kind of like
wow.
that's just kind of a crap situation for anybody who's coming over from the BYC. So obviously like technical difficulties, those aren't always going to be there, but for anybody who's trying to think about doing something like that going forward, you want to make triple, quadruple sure that this stuff is going to actually work. Other thing that's
just making sure as well there's enough actual time for the BYOC, and they're like saying you're going to do all these games in a day and then not having any backup for when they don't work, because it ended up affecting the main well, not the main teams, but the qualified teams as well, because they didn't get as much time to practice on the PCs to get their setup done, because they were all these other things were happening. So it did affect it a little bit, but I mean ultimately everybody just pulled it out and kind of showed that they were. I mean, Optic came all the way through the BYOC, right, and ended up doing really well. So huge props to them for being able to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, and like as far as like production, I mean, I thought the stage was great. I thought that the way that they did it, the 2-story kind of thing, kind of allowed for a lot of people to be able to. The only thing kind of sucked was that you couldn't really see the people on the second floor. So I mean that was kind of a letdown, but. Other than that, I mean, I thought the production was fantastic. I thought that the time between games was great. They didn't have a whole just like a lot of ridiculous downtime. It seemed like everything kept moving. I didn't get to see a whole lot of like the filler content that they had, just because it's tough when you're actually there to. It's like any sporting event. If you go and see it in person versus if you see it, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to a lot of like the fly-in information or.
Oh, you were on the filler content. You actually ended up on a part of it.
I did enough of that, but I will also say like this is I think, and a shout out to my buddy Skyline. I think this is an event where you can definitely see the huge difference having somebody that is experienced in observing this game can make on how the game looks whenever it's broadcast. So we finally got to have Skyline in there. So I mean, Skyline, Ansvar, Sifel, like any of these people that are constantly doing the observing. I think that DreamHack should have made a case for every future LAN to get at least one person in there that has experience and knows what they're doing.
I mean, Skyline, Skyline, PUBG Online, awesome. First Blood, all these other things. So lots of experience when it comes to that. Crimson, any other things to kind of add to that point? I guess the production and moving forward.
I think that I think it was. I mean, all I'll say is if people get a chance to go to these LANs, I mean, we sort of Pora mentioned it earlier. Unfortunately, there isn't going to be a live audience at the NA PGI qualifiers for whatever reason.
There will be at EU though.
But there will be an EU, so we know it's not some decision by the ruling parties. It's the decision by the particular organizers for whatever reason, and I think that's a shame because I would definitely encourage people to go and watch PUBG live. I mean, I enjoy all esports, and I've been to quite a few LANs before for different esports and that sort of thing. But it really kind of drags you into it, and it really was exciting to watch it live as opposed to watching it online. There is that extra element of it, and anybody who gets a chance to go should definitely try and get over.
All right,
so I really hope that they're able to put butts in the chairs for the EU PGI qualifiers too, because just if as good as it is that they have they're allowing people to come in there, if there's nobody that shows up for it, it's going to look bad. So I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It could be it's really great for the fans, but we need to have people actually show up to them.
Yeah, and that's kind of our next topic, the upcoming LAN schedule. I know Crimson is always on top of that with that phenomenal website, PUBG Radar. Actually, make sure you guys go check that one out as well if you want to be on that 200 IQ LAN schedule like Crimson himself over there. So Porosaurus is actually going to get some first-hand experience with using PUBG Radar as well over here coming forward. But we made mention no one is going to be in the seating room for the DNA version. But the EU version definitely will have the seating room. As well, I saw something that was very interesting. I believe it is for the EU that they're going to have like a talent show day, like casters like Matchum and stuff can sign autographs. What are you guys' thoughts on that? We got around 9 minutes to go.
I think imagining Matchum trying to sign.
I think Demon tweeted out, apparently I'm doing a signing on the Saturday, so I don't think they actually knew they were doing it until they announced it was going to happen.
I mean, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I mean, the good thing about the PGI qualifiers, right, for the EU, or I say the good thing, or maybe the double-edged sword perhaps, is that it is only PUBG there, right? So you're not going to get the walking crowd that happens upon some PUBG and wants to watch it. So as Poro says, that might be good, that might be bad. I mean, one thing we know for sure is everybody who's going to go and make the effort to turn up in the crowd is going to be competitive PUBG fans, which is great. So something like a signing, I think that's pretty cool. Everybody who's going to be there knows these guys from the competitive scene, knows the casters, etc. So yeah, I think that's a cool little thing to get people to meet. Because I mean, just from going to DreamHack, we knew, we saw how, let's say, tricky it was for the casters and the players and that sort of thing to come out and meet anyone from the crowd.
Because of the stage.
Yeah, because of how the stage was set up, they've obviously got a backstage area for the players, of course, and you don't see them just wandering around. You don't get to meet them as much as you maybe should be able to.
Nobody asked for my autograph, Crimson.
Yeah, maykind I should have.
Yeah, you guys were both in the crowd, so I would have asked for it. So, do you guys have any? What kind of seating is there going to be at the EU? Like, is it what's the setting? I guess I need to do a little more research.
Yeah, well, it's actually
studio.
It's a theater.
Theater.
So it's so there's a whole ranked seating setup, I guess. It's going to be interesting because I don't really have any idea how it's going to be set up because it is just PUBG and you're going to watch PUBG and then that's going to be it, right? So I'm not sure what else is going to be going on there. We'll obviously have to see, but I'm
sure
hoping it's going to be a nice turnout. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure they got something in mind. So after, what other things are going on then, as far as LANs go, or are we I know, for example, the online tournaments are kind of on their off season. At least Awesome, PUBG Online, they're on their off season. GLL is on season number 2, but besides that, you got a couple of the smaller leagues trying to do some things. What's really going on right now besides these events then?
Who knows?
Well, we're supposed to know.
I can give you a little rundown if you want.
I mean, GL, I don't know what's going on with anybody else. Why they're taking so long to start up their season.
Yeah. Everybody feels that way, by the way. A lot of DMs
course,
like, oh, what's this? What's that? When is it? You know what? We're all kind of just sitting on our hands here waiting as well. But yeah, Crimson, what's that rundown?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got PUBG Online soon. We've got Awesome soon. Again, can't do any dates. Don't know anything more than that really. And then you've got GLL going on. You've got ESU, which has just started up recently. I think that's into the 3rd, 4th week, something like that. There's a First Blood tournament coming up. I think it's the end of the month. And then you've got PGI, which is next week. Yeah, so next week from sort of Wednesday, Thursday, PGI NA. So that'll be on next weekend. Then the following weekend from that, you got PGI EU, so that's another weekend of LAN PUBG. So there's tons of PUBG to watch, even though we're in a sort of off season in terms of the online leagues. And then you got GLL starting up, and I would imagine it's going to make a prediction that Awesome and PUBG Online will probably start at the end of this month to coincide with the LANs kind of getting themselves sorted out and finishing off that sort of thing. So there's going to be plenty on. There's plenty to watch, plenty to check out, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, PUBG Radar, it will be on there.
Awesome just announced Nations Cup.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that
as well. Yeah.
CIS PGI qualifier. From Starladder, also a thing. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I guess is the
yeah. I think it feels a little bit of a slow season for the players because if you're not qualified for these particular LANs, there's not a lot going on. But actually, for spectating, other than maybe what you're used to on the Tuesday, Wednesday kind of day, weekly tournaments. Other than that, there's tons to go. If you want to watch PUBG, there's PUBG happening pretty much from now until the end of August. Non-stop, I would think. So yeah, there's plenty out there.
All right, yeah. Poro, what were you gonna say?
No, there's absolutely a lot of stuff going on.
Well, let's wrap it up.
You can even slide over into those Korean DMs if you're feeling feisty. You want to see some hot 20-person TPP action.
Well, they do a mix. They do a TPP and FPP mix.
So we'll wrap it up then with the Nations Cup. Right. We'll dive a little into that to complete our night here. This would be the second Nations Cup, right? That's happening. The first one, actually, really good. So qualifiers start on the 5th and 6th of July. Sign-ups are on June 16th. So that's in 2 days from now. What was the system like last time? How are the teams chosen? Trying to remember. Do you have more information on this, Crimson or Poro?
So they have a team captain for the region, which I believe they choose or is voted for. Possibly, I'm not sure. It tends to be one of the
popular
outspoken people in the community. Well, I don't want to say popular, but let's
popular
like
popular picks.
We'll say popular if you want to, however you want to say it. But one of the big people in the community from a particular country tends to be the captain of a team, and then they pick the rest of the team based on that. And
so the captain picks their team.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but last time they did a good job of, because obviously there's some cases where, for example, if you're from Norway or Finland or someone, you could just pick almost a full team of
Penta or
exactly, or Penta if you're German, or Diamond Dogs is a whole Norwegian squad, so you could do that. But they've been pretty good, at least last year. Well, it wasn't last year, but the last time they did it, they were really good actually at mixing up the teams, getting some people in that maybe people didn't instantly recognize, and then think, oh, actually, get some exposure for those guys from different countries, that sort of thing. So it's a cool event.
I want to say last time they did it to where it was you couldn't have more than 2 people from one team on a team.
I think that was what it was. Something like that. Yeah. And I know there were so many UK people that wanted to play that the UK on day 1 fielded one 4-man team, and on day 2 fielded a completely different 4-man team, just to allow all 8 people who wanted to play. So that was pretty
So
cool.
so that's kind of like a fun thing to look forward to then, at least. I mean, it's still competitive, but more or less to the people, right? Competitive for the people type of event. So
Yeah, it's interesting to watch people switch their teams up, because I mean, people like FaZe, they play with the same 3 guys and themselves, and that's it. And it's nice to kind of see it mix up a little bit and see how they actually do with different teammates. And
we have a show in America called Wife Swap, kind of the same thing. The 2 families swipe their wives, and they live with each other for a week.
FaZe swap.
Face swap. All right. So, I mean, we talked about LANs. We kind of wrapped up, came up with some decent points with Dreamhack. That's probably going to be it. We're looking forward to some LANs coming on into the future. This week, this weekend, we're going to be starting that as well. So, most likely next episode will be based around PGI. If that sounds about good with you guys.
We got NA followed immediately by EU. So.
Yeah, maybe try and do some predictions. That's always fun.
Some predictions, all right.
Get some spicy comments in the chat.
Man.
Yeah.
Viper. Anything you guys want to add to the end of the show then? Poor Source, maybe where they can find you. I mean, I know they see your name above your head, but
Yeah, right there, right above me. Catch me on the Twitter tweets, and then what else?
Jurassic Park.
Whatever you can cast and host and analyze and everything.
Either in Realm Royale or building my own Jurassic Park with dinosaurs named after PUBG people. So.
All right. I mean, you're in NA GLL. You've been casting that, and Crimson.
Bravo, yeah.
Crimson been casting ESU. I heard word on the street. Little birdie.
Word on the street. It was I did a last minute cast for the ESU guys. Don't go and watch the VOD. It wasn't very good.
Go watch the VOD. Go watch the VOD.
I can't say that.
It's
not my I don't know, my first skills, not my best thing, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy casting, so it was a lot of fun, and I think people enjoyed it, even though it wasn't top level like you guys. But there we go.
Hey, you did good. You did good, Crimson. Where can I find you besides the link above your head then, and casting on ESU?
Yeah, Twitter. Yeah, maybe I'll do some more casts on ESU. We'll see. But competitive Reddit. We always talk about that. PUBG Radar. You've talked about that enough. Got the paycheck in there. But yeah, I think that's the main sort of things. Yeah, I mean, Twitter's the place to go, right?
All right, Twitter is the place to go. 2018. So this is season 2, episode 1 of the podcast. PUBCast. Make sure you follow the new PUBCast PUBG Twitter down below. We currently have only 1 follower, so we are going to appreciate everybody.
Starting small, going big.
Starting small, going big. And you know what?
You don't start new things.
And you could tweet at us if maybe if you want to have the next topic for the show. Let us know some ideas. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, tweet at us there. It's all about the community. Even if you want to try to get onto the show, you also tweet at us there. So pretty much any type of communication, go through the new PUBCast PUBG Twitter. Until next episode, you guys who are listening, have a good night, good day, wherever you are. See you later.